Okay, so welcome everyone to our webinar, Strengthening Relations in the Family. This is practical advice for taking care of yourself, your spouse, and all of your children. I'd like to introduce our speaker, Charlotte Romberg, or many of you know her as Char. Char received her bachelor's degree in psychology with a minor in autism studies from UVU. She's currently working on her master's degree in education in ABA therapy to become a board-certified behavior analyst. She has worked with children and adults with disabilities for 14 years, and we are so lucky she's been a part of United Angels Foundation for the past 5 years. She currently works at Scenic View Academy and does private tutoring for twin girls with Down syndrome. And when she's not busy at work or with school, which is probably never, you can find her out hiking with her dogs. All right, Char, I'm going to hand this over to you. I'm going to mute my camera or mute myself and turn off my camera here.
All right. Thanks for that great introduction. Know that today, all of the information that's coming out is going to be pretty heavily research-based. It's not just my opinion or something I read on social media. It all has significant research backing. So I just like to preface that so that you know it's not just my opinion or something that sounded really good that I found. So you guys know, you guys live motherhood every day, but you might not know that mothers who are raising a child with a disability experience stress at a substantially higher rate than those who don't have a child with a disability, which then leads to poor mental health and well-being. And this is across all cultures, all countries. That about 40 years of research has shown that. And it's so much so affects each mother that now research is showing on a biological level that cells, different components of your cells of mothers who are raising a child with a disability on a cellular level are about 10 years older than their peers across cultures. And part of that comes from the dysregulated cortisol levels that are found, meaning cortisol levels control different things. Most mothers who are raising a child with a disability will either have higher levels of cortisol, which indicates prolonged acute stress, or they'll have lower levels of cortisol, which indicates chronic stress. Then they'll also have sharp rises in cortisol when different things come up, IEPs, doctor's appointments, even just behavior outbursts, which all of this then messes up your sleep cycle. And so now there's more research trying to show what it's doing to your immune system. So with that, like, not happy news, you know this, the stress is every day part of your life. So today, the first thing we're going to talk about is yourself, how to strengthen your relationship with yourself and increase your overall well-being. And none of this is going to be like mind-shattering, like altering news. It's stuff that you know. But today, hopefully, be able to remind you of ways that you can reduce your stress and help build better relationships with yourself and your family. And so we start with you. First thing is ask for help. I think sometimes our pride can get in the way, and just the nature of being busy every day is stop and ask for help from anyone that you trust. If it's mental health that you need, ask for that. There's great resources, even just at UVU, Utah County Mental Health you can look up, but ask for help. But after you ask for help, you need to take some time every day just for you. Even if it's 15 minutes, make it happen. Research shows that exercise is one of the #1 ways to change our brain chemistry to show that to reduce those cortisol levels to the levels that they should be at. And exercising, even if it's just with your kids on the Nintendo Switch doing Zumba, counts. Like, do any way you can. There's lots of free online workout videos that you can do for just 10-15 minutes on YouTube. It makes such a big difference. Get outside, right now it's still nice, it's not too hot, get that vitamin D and just go for a walk around the block if that's all you have time for. And you can just maybe arm your house for 15 minutes as you walk around the house and make sure, or around the block, make sure no one gets out of the house. Go do that, and it will significantly change your outlook on the day. Another one that research shows really helps is being able to read or listen to a book. That allows your brain to kind of have an escape, even if it's like self-help type positive books. Those still allow your brain to escape reality in a way, and let your subconscious process what's going on. Does anybody have any suggestions that they like to share with what you like to do for your you time? I know there's only 4 of us. You don't have to share. Okay. Something I like to do, like Sylvia said, is I like to go hike with my dogs. Spending time with my dogs helps me, and then being outside also just changes my outlook. So you're probably asking yourself, like, great, that sounds all good, but how am I going to find the time to be able to do those type of things? We'll talk about that in just a second. One of the things that research is showing in the last, it's been 6 years now, there's this program called Healthy Mothers, Healthy Families, and they've created an online workshop. It actually started in Australia, and now it's gone worldwide, and it is a fabulous program. They've had about 1,500 mothers go through the program with different research supporting each of them, and almost all mothers have shown a positive increase in their overall well-being, and some had significant changes and some were just minor, so all of them showed a little bit of positive changes. And it's just a 6 or 8 week or 8 class workshop that is something great to look into if you have time. Another way to kind of just get out and help your body and your brain just connect is podcasts. I think almost all podcasts are free. You don't just have to have an Apple device, even though that is an Apple device podcast logo. Some of the best ones that are the most popular and have found to be most beneficial for moms and dads, The Lucky Few. It's a mother and a father who have started a social media account to now it's a full-blown business. They've adopted 2 kids with Down syndrome and 1 biracial girl who had, she's Guatemalan and African American. And it's just their story, and they have different podcasts about empowerment. Brene Brown, I'm sure everyone knows who she is. Just any of her podcasts really help give you a different outlook. And then there's a Thriving in the Midst of Chaos, Parenting with Special Needs Kids, that have different experts in the field depending on what their topic is for that month. One that's been around for, I think, over 10 years now is Unexceptional Moms, Hope and Encouragement for Special Needs Parents. They're just a pretty tried and true podcast that has great stuff. And then for any dads that we're going to join or that you want to share with dads, it's called Dad to Dad Podcast. And I think men experience raising a child with a disability a little bit differently than mothers do. And it helps, I think this one helps them connect from the different people that I've talked to. Do you guys have any other podcasts or other recommendations that you like to share? If you do, type them in the chat, interrupt anytime. So how are you going to find time to be able to work on yourself and just give yourself a break? Number one thing is get on the waiting list if you're not, for the DSPD respite care. We have Debbie Johansson can help you through UAF, and then there's a Utah Parent Center that can also help you manage the intense application process. And then it doesn't matter if your child's 6 months or 16, get on that waiting list. It doesn't matter what your income level is, it matters what your need is as far as what your child needs. And it's worth it. It's a headache once you get it, to kind of get it started, but it's totally worth it. Even if you just get 10 hours a week, that's 10 hours where somebody's there to just help take care of your child with a disability, and you and your family can go do something different if they want, or they can come with you. Something that's interesting that research has shown over the last 15 years is the important role that grandparents and extended family play in helping raise a child with a disability. By including aunts and uncles, grandparents in the care, it created a better community and a better family, strengthening their bond with the family. And I think moms, you really need it. Even if you don't have grandparents close. I know in my life, I have like 4 sets of grandparents, or I did, and none of them were biological except one set. And, they were who helped. The other one that I think we kind of let go sometimes just because of the chaos of life are those routines. And I know this sounds kind of like simple, but creating those bedtimes and quiet time and just routines of the day make a huge difference for your sanity. The bedtimes, especially if we can make them a little bit earlier, all research shows that, those younger kids, get them to bed earlier so that their brain is getting the sleep that their body and brain need to develop properly. And then it allows you and older kids and your husband or spouse time to have your downtime and have your you time. So all of these great things start today. If you need help with any of this, shoot me an email, shoot Sylvia an email, and we'll help you get started. But when you start today, even just take those 15 minutes. And right now, doing the webinar, you got 45 minutes, an hour of that, and not do it every day. So now let's talk about you and your spouse. This, I don't know if you guys know, there's like this myth that parents with a child with a disability have a higher divorce rate. It's just a myth. We just have a higher divorce rate in America in general. And no solid research has shown that just because you have a kid with disability, that it means your chance for divorce is higher. So ways to help you and your spouse or partner grow closer together amidst your daily chaos, especially during this pandemic time, is pretty hard. But the number one thing is time alone together, even if it's just 15 minutes before bed. Go take a walk around the block, go outside. And in that time, take time to talk to each other, not just about the have-tos, about, the schedule and plans like that, but things that are on your mind. And I think you'll be shocked to find that a lot of times you guys share the same concerns, just maybe in a different way. Something that all family science has shown that I've read is having that united front in front of your children will help dissolve confrontation with spouses later. So kind of come up with that plan when your teenager's wants to borrow money, take the car, stay out late. Just have kind of that set boundary or routine of what you guys are going to say together, and then discuss it if you disagree, not in front of the kids. And you guys know, compromise, think about what you're willing to compromise and let go of and what you're not, and make sure that you guys are honest and open about it. Another great way to help you guys grow closer together is to celebrate the small moments. I have a family that I just love and adore, and they've been married, I think, going on 35 years. And they try to find a way to celebrate every day. Even if it's like, oh my goodness, I found my keys. They get their spoons and they get like a scoop of ice cream, like a spoonful of ice cream out of the container, spend 5 minutes, and then they go about their day. But that celebrating changes your brain chemistry. And by celebrating more, you find that those hard things don't feel as hard. And with that, be intentional. Be intentional about what you say, about what you do. Try not to get stuck in the monotony of day-to-day stuff. And, you look 6 months later and all of a sudden you guys haven't had your alone time for 6 months. And how did that happen? So be intentional about your days and hours about what you're doing. And then a great book, if you haven't read it or listened to it, is The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman. It's been around for a long time. There's the website that you can just take the 5-minute quiz to see what your love language is, but I highly recommend actually reading the book. They have the version for kids too, to figure out like how to interpret your child's love language, which is a little bit more difficult or easier depending on your spouse. And it just really, I think, changes the way we see how we receive and give love. So another great product that has just seen some really cool results, and I'm pretty picky about what I will recommend for anyone, doesn't matter what it is, but UVU a few years ago started what's called the UVU Stronger Families Project. It's a free program. It is an 8-week course where once a week you meet on, it depends, different days depending on what the area. It's just Utah County right now, but spreads all the way from Lehigh to, sometimes it'll go down to Payson and out to all throughout Utah County at different schools is where they'll have it. And it's one night a week, and you come for dinner, and kids are split up by age group and go to classes, and parents go to classes, and they learn the similar things on their appropriate age level. And if they have enough parents that have a child with a disability, they will also have a class specifically for that, because it just changes the dynamics. And so it becomes a little bit more targeted to incorporating a child with a disability into the family. Highly recommend it. Right now, it still looks like they're going to do it in the fall. It might look a little differently, but it's amazing. So check that one out. So let's talk about your kids. Can you guys, I don't see the chat, tell me the ages of your children? Just real fast. I got to pull up the chat. There it is. Do you guys find the chat? Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, we got a good mix. Cool. Oops. Let me get rid of that one. Okay, so first, we're going to talk about your child that has a disability. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Dr. Eric Carter. He works out of Vanderbilt and has done some pretty huge, impactful research on children with disabilities and adults, teens with disabilities specifically. And one of the things that's come out over the last couple of years, and UVU's making this part of their community initiative, in which, so we're trying to spread out what this is. He and his colleagues did research of 500 teens who had an intellectual or cognitive disability and their parents, and talked to them about what helped them flourish, what helped them reach their fullest potential. And from that came these 10 dimensions of belonging. And the first one, or I'm just going to share a little bit about them. If you want to know about Dr. Eric Carter, you just have to Google Eric Carter, Vanderbilt, and see what his research is. He's come to UVU once, he's come to BYU twice and presented different things. And so he's actually on to come this fall to UVU if COVID restrictions allow any big conferences. So talks about being present. Are individuals with disabilities present in all the activities you offer? And this is talking about whole community, but also applies to the family unit as a community as well. Because belonging requires presence. It's hard for people to be in a relationship when they never or rarely encounter one another. The absence of people with disabilities from faith communities, workplaces, and other community activities is often the first barrier that we need to address. The second one he identified was invited. Are individuals with disabilities being personally invited to participate in all that your congregation, your school, or your community programs offer? An announcement is quite different from a personal invitation. The invitation says, "We want you here." An announcement leaves open the possibility of a footnote or an exception. Are the individuals with a disability warmly welcomed when they arrive? We all hope to encounter hospitality and a warm welcome when we arrive to a new community for the first time, but such gestures are not guaranteed for people with intellectual disabilities. Rather than feeling welcomed, many leave feeling wounded. In fact, as many as 1/3 of parents report having changed their place of worship because their son or daughter with an intellectual or developmental disability was not welcomed or included. Is your child known? Are individuals with disabilities truly known within your community? Spending time with someone and learning about their interests, their stories, their passions and gifts helps them become known in new ways. Known not by the label that they've been given, but as an individual that they are. Known not by deficits, but by their strengths. And when people are known, they go from being present to having a presence. Are they accepted? Are individuals with disabilities accepted without condition or caveat? Real acceptance comes through personal interactions over time. As someone becomes known deeply, true acceptance grows, and people come to feel like part of a family and embraced for who they are. And those ones, it's the right half of the wheel, and it really starts with that. And then the rest are like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I feel like this right half of the wheel is the foundation, and then the next part is reaching to the next level. So are they supported? Are individuals with disabilities provided the support they need to participate fully and meaningfully? Sometimes young people with intellectual disabilities will benefit from additional support to participate fully in certain activities. Such supports may need to be more individualized or a bit more intensive. Let creativity and intentionality describe your posture. And if you're not sure where to start or what supports that child needs, ask them or ask their parents or caregivers. Another question that he asks and talks about is the child cared for? Are individuals with disabilities receiving care in ways that help them flourish? We all need care, and authentic communities should be marked by generous care. There are many ways to meet this need, and most require no disability expertise, such as sharing a meal with someone, asking about their life, offering them a ride, praying together, providing a job connection, or extending a helping hand. Next one is befriended. Are individuals with disabilities named as friends? We flourish most in relationships with others, yet friendship can be so elusive for individuals with disabilities. For example, 44% of youth with autism never see friends outside of school, and 51% have not been invited to appear at social activities during the past year. And that's like some sobering statistics, and I'm sure you guys kind of live that each day. And hopefully, through United Angels and all the other things that we have here in Utah, we're starting to change that a little bit. Needed. Are individuals with disabilities missed when they're not present? Our society often struggles to see people with disabilities as possessing gifts and strengths that make them indispensable to a community. Communities must come to see themselves as incomplete without the presence and participation of people with disabilities. And loved, which needs no explanation. We know that we feel that we are belonging when we feel loved. And one way, when I was putting this together, that I thought everyone can help participate is this Saturday. You guys know, is the Walk with Angels. And because we're doing it virtually, you get to do it in your community and just your neighborhood. And I guess we're like reaching out all around the country, kind of depending on where families live. And even Sylvia said somebody in Germany is going to participate on Saturday. And how great is that? Is that because we've had to change things with our current circumstances, we're able to just kind of broaden our impact. So if you don't have plans Saturday morning, jump on and do a little walk. Okay, we've talked about your child with this disability. Let's talk about your other kids. And this first slide is it's a little depressing, but don't worry, there's a good side to this. So research over the last about 15 years, research is starting to focus on the impact that siblings have, a child with a disability has on the other kids in the family. And over and over, research is showing that they have a harder time. And I know it doesn't seem like a surprise, but I think sometimes it's hard to even focus and think about that, because your child with a disability often takes so much time and energy that you're kind of just in survival mode. So that's kind of why we wanted to talk about this. I'm going to talk about teens because we all know teenagehood is hard, and raising a teen is probably even harder. Luckily, I haven't had to do that yet. But compared to their teens, to their friends who don't have a sibling with a disability, they really struggle with the feeling of needing to be perfect all the time, even if it's that, like, if that's not in your family, that, you know, perfectionism isn't something that your family struggles with or anything. Your teen does. They also really struggle with feeling like they can't express their feelings. They have feelings of like guilt and shame of like, why should I feel this way when look at my brother or my sister and look what my parents are going through. The teens have a different idea of family and home life compared to what their peers are going through, and that's a hard adjustment because as a teenager you often just want to be like everybody else. They also often feel as though their problems are minimized and end up feeling pretty isolated, that they don't have anyone to talk to about their situation because maybe they're embarrassed, maybe it's hard, maybe they just don't know how. They start dealing with intolerance of inequality early and often, meaning that they see how the world treats their sibling with a disability, and that's really hard to process as a child, because as little kids, you see kids on the playground when they're young, they play with everybody, but as they get older, they start having little different groups. But developmentally, that is how your brain progresses. But a child with a sibling with a disability learns that at a much earlier age, which then creates some conflict in their brain. Like any teen, no teen likes to be told what to do, but more so they feel like they're asked to help way too much. And just being honest and open about that, of like, you are, and acknowledge that, but know that that's what they're struggling with too. And then feeling like they must grow up quickly. I have a friend who has a younger brother with Down syndrome, and I think they're about 5 years apart. And when he was little, her mom was making dinner. They had 6 kids, and she just had a bad day and wanted to come talk to her mom. And her mom like hands her the stack of flashcards, was like, I have to make dinner. You have to go work on these words with your brother so he can learn his sight words. And like, she took her little brother into like the workroom, and they both basically just cried on the floor because they were both like done. So not that you can't ask your other kids for help, but just know that sometimes it's hard, just like it's hard for you. Something else, you know, you guys know what this looks like, but oftentimes when the whole family gets together to do something, a lot of the attention ends up going to the child with a disability, just because of the nature of how it is. That's just how it is. But it changes the family dynamics. And so the other kids in the family sometimes miss the family as a whole unit getting to be together. So with this like intense news, don't worry, it's not all negative. Some of the really significant positive things of growing up with a sibling with a disability, is that you end up having an increased tolerance for differences, higher levels of empathy, definitely more mature, and a greater sense of responsibility and more self-confidence, and a greater appreciation of your own health and intelligence than if you didn't grow up with a sibling with a disability. And even in my master's program, there are, out of 10 of us, I think 3 of them have a sibling with a disability, and it just kind of changed what they wanted to do once they realized just the need out there to advocate for their sibling with a disability. Oops, click in here. So how do you help your teen and your kids? Because if we can help and address these issues sooner in life rather than later, it'll make a big difference. And again, this is not like life altering like news, but that one-on-one time with each child, it makes such a difference. It does not need to be every day. If you can do it every week, that's great. But just a couple times a month, take some real quality time. It could be half an hour where you just spend time with them. And sometimes it's hard because you know that there's all these other things to do, and maybe the other kids in the house are going crazy. So again, if it's just going for a walk, if it's a bedtime routine where you have, lay or sit down next to your child as you're going to bed and just have that time to talk. If you want to have like a kind of like a simple activity to do that you don't have to think about, you just have to sit down and do, something that I found that has a lot of great research supporting it. It's called the Big Life Journal. I stumbled upon it a couple years ago by accident, and there's journals for elementary age kids, and then there's a teen version. And the younger one, you have a journal buddy, so an adult that sits down with you and you go through these activities. There's a podcast stories that go along with it, that it's all about teaching kids and adolescents how to have a growth mindset and basically just positive affirmations, but it's in a really fun way. And the podcast is great for the younger kids as silly stories, or silly characters who share stories, and they're true stories about different events in life that showed perseverance, gratitude, different things like that. But do something that they like. Like, don't sit down to do a craft with your son who hates glue. Like, that's just going to cause a fight for both of you. If their favorite thing is to sit down and play Minecraft or some video game, do it with them. They will always remember the time that they taught mom how to play a video game. I know, like I do. I remember my mom trying to learn Mario Kart. It was like the best thing. I know this is hard, but don't feel guilty about it. Do family activities or vacations that don't include your child with a disability if you can, if that fits your family dynamics. I make sure I'm not running out of time. I have a quick story. I got to help start the Provo after summer camp. It's fully inclusive. And a few years ago, I had, this is not the only time it happened, a mom and her 3 other daughters. Her daughter with a disability came to camp, and the girls, she had 1 younger and 2 older sisters, came up to me at the end of our first day and said, sorry, I don't need to get emotional about this one. I've told the story many times. They came and gave me this big hug and said, thanks for letting our sister come to camp, because it gave us our first time to be just with our mom. And their sibling was 8. And that just blew my mind of, like, for these kids, the other one, the sisters were 6, 11, and 13. And, they had gone 8 years of their life, or little girl 6, it was her whole life. And they'd never had a chance to just go swimming and go out to lunch with their mom. And I didn't ask them to tell me. They just ran up and gave me a hug at the end of our first day. It makes a big difference. So if you can find that way, that's where DSPD funding respite comes in, extended family and grandparents, great neighbors, friends. In Canada, they have this great program where when you have a child with a disability, you get to sign up for this program, and you have a family that becomes your second set of family. And once a month, they take your child with a disability for the weekend. And obviously, they're all background checked and safety and stuff like that. So that you, your spouse, your other kids, or just you, however it works, have a weekend a month. And it makes a big difference. Talking to all your kids, all your other kids, be honest, acknowledge their feelings, validate that those are their feelings, no matter how maybe irrational they might seem, and just be open and honest with them, obviously making sure it's age appropriate, but help them see their siblings' strengths. Sometimes the other kids in the family will take on the same stress that the parents have, and sometimes that can just be a little bit too heavy for them, and they don't always see like, oh, well, look, they finally just learned to say a word or potty trained, and what a big deal that is, because now things totally change when kids get potty trained. Another great support for siblings, it's called the Sibling Support Project. You can go online and look it up, but they have what's called sib shops, and it's something that when I found out about it about, I don't know, 7 years ago, I fell in love with it. I haven't been trained in it yet, but we do have in Utah County, Kids on the Move has a program, and it's called Sib Shops of Utah County, and they have a blog. Obviously, they're not running right now because of COVID restrictions, but it's for kids 7 to 13, and it's a good program. It's, I think, twice a month on a Saturday, and it gives those younger kids an opportunity just to get together and be like, oh, there's other kids out there who have maybe a similar home life, and they can laugh about some of the things that they experience of like, oh yeah, last night, like I got hit in the face with an iPad, and they can let it go instead of that being stuck in their brain all the time. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is this great research project that's been going on for almost 40 years now. It's called the Search Institute, and they have been researching what helps adolescents succeed. We all went through adolescence and know how hard it was, at least it was for me. And so they have come up with just 40 years worth of research, and we're talking like 130,000 participants from high schools and middle schools throughout the entire country. And one of those things, I hope you can read that. If not, I can send you the PDF. Is this developmental relationship framework. And it talks about the number one thing, there's 40 developmental assets that helps a teen be successful and reach their full potential and make it through adolescence as a whole being, instead of messed up like sometimes it happens. So in it, and I'll just read a little bit from this. They talk about what the core relationships that a teen has, what those adults should do. And sometimes it's a parent, sometimes it's an aunt and uncle, sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes it's a leader out in the community or a friend's mom. But the number one thing is expressing care and showing them that they matter. Be someone that they can trust, pay attention to them, like when they're together. So often we have our phones and social media, text, things like that. Try and put that away for just 10 minutes while you're with that teen, with your teen. And make sure, like, say the words that like you believe in them and that they know that they're valued. I actually remember the first time somebody told me they were proud of me, and I was 19, and it was my hockey coach. And I don't know, so maybe that's why I have kind of a passion for this stuff. And make sure that you're praising their efforts, and efforts first of all, and achievement second. Praising their effort is better than the idea of like, man, you tried so hard on that test, that's awesome, you got a C, instead of only praising when they get an A or a B. Something else that I think gets kind of left to the side because it's hard to do to a teenager is to help them grow, challenge their growth, push them to be a better person. But hold them to expectations. They want boundaries, they want consistency. Expect the best from them. And find ways, every child's going to be different, to push them to go further and hold them accountable. Don't um, don't don't let up just because they had a hard day or you had a hard day. Make sure that they're taking responsibility for their actions, and help them just learn from those mistakes and setbacks. That's one of the things I love about this Big Life Journal. The teen one they do by themselves. They can have an adult with them, but it really kind of changes the way that they think a little bit. And there's some other really cool workbooks that help teens and kids learn that. The third element that the Search Institute talks about is providing support. And I know that's hard to do, especially if you have a big family and a child with a disability that needs a lot of care. But help them if you can. I know that, as high school goes on, classes get harder, and the way Utah teaches math sometimes a little bit different. So you got to kind of figure that out. But it talks about guiding them through hard situations and systems instead of doing it for them, teaching them how to do that and help them, empower them and build their confidence, but also advocate for them when they need that. And set boundaries. We talked about setting routines earlier. Set boundaries as well, and help keep them on track. I read a research article recently about how difficult it is for parents to give up control of their child. This article was about level 1 autism or high functioning autism, and how hard it is for parents to let go of the control that they've needed to have for their child for so long. They went through IEPs since the child was 3, and now they're 19, ready to go off to college or off to work, live independently. So start early, start sharing some of that power and giving up a little bit of that control by treating your teen with respect and giving them a say in the situation while also maintaining those boundaries. And like I said in the earlier slide, listen to their feelings and acknowledge them, but then collaborate with them, help them brainstorm with them to problem solve and create those opportunities for them to learn. The last one is expanding the possibilities. And the Search Institute talks about helping your teen connect with people and places to help broaden their world. With social media, that becomes really easy, and especially right now, everyone's doing Zoom and team meetings online, and this is kind of a great way right now to help teens kind of get out of their normal routine and their bubble and see what else is out there. Inspire them. Teens are the ones kind of right now changing the world, and they're the next leaders, the next ones that are going to create the next invention. And that, you guys, is kind of all I have for you today. I just would keep in mind, don't feel overwhelmed. I think it's really easy to see maybe how there's things that you can do better, but you came to the webinar today, and that's a huge thing to help you in the next step. And if you have questions, comments, love to hear them, ask them, answer them right now. Or an email later.
And folks, we'd like to invite you to unmute your microphone, and it's up to you if you want to share your camera, but we have a small enough group where we'd love to encourage some just discussion. If you have suggestions, comments, or questions, please feel free to participate. We would love to have you.
So I have a question for those of you who have teenagers. Do you think you or your teen would be interested in ever attending a sibling workshop where we did fun activities, but also had a component of group therapy led by, a certified, someone certified to do that. I've gotten mixed results when I've talked to friends and family about that. So I was curious what you guys thought.
Hi there. I'm like, I don't even know if I'm online or what, but I don't have a teenager. I have my daughter with special needs is 5, and then I have a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old. So I think, were you asking if only teens, or what were you?
Anybody, right now in Utah County, Kids on the Move has, for 7 to 13-year-olds, they have the SIB workshops. It's a little bit differently than I imagine it. They do a lot more like arts and crafts and things like that, but they still do some really great things that research has shown that helps kids.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just curious if we had more interest in that. Is that something down the road we should look at trying to do, or anything like that?
Yeah, I had heard of the SIB shop, and he just turned 7 this last year, so we haven't done it yet. But since we've been talking, I sent an email to whoever was on the website and
Yeah, I think it's
reached out asking how to sign up whenever we are going to sign up.
Awesome.
And I jumped on late, so I was just trying to go back through the slides that I missed. Just looking at those, but yeah, super helpful. Were you saying, just a question about the journal, what is your experience with the Big Life journal, or did you say there were others that?
I love it. There are lots of others out there that that have great ratings on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
But I've personally used the Big Life journal a few times. I haven't used the teen one as much because I work with younger ones.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to do it once a week, and we sit down and they're just so excited. It's just the one-on-one time. The journal's great, and it has little guided activities that you do. You read a story, like one the other day we read about, it was talking about perseverance, and it talked about Olympic wheelchair basketball Olympian from England, and kind of just his story and how he made it. And then another one about persistence was a female engineer and how she tried to do this robot dance and it failed miserably like 5 times, but like the 6th time she did it, she had 3,000 people show up to like her flash mob. And it just is kind of, for me, I didn't have to like pre-plan some activity. We sat down, we figured out what page we're on, we did it together, we listened to the podcast, and we had a half an hour together.
Kind of like a pre-planned lesson.
Nope. Yep. You just sit down and do it. And it's something that you can talk about as a theme if you do it once a week with your whole family. Like, okay, this week we're talking about gratitude, and this is what it's going to be. I just love it. And they have like some free online like resources that you can do also, but it really helps with that growth mindset. And a lot of schools in Utah County, that's kind of what they focus on, especially in the middle school and secondary levels. But that's kind of like what a lot of the curriculum looks like for
the kids with special needs, or
for all students.
Okay.
For all students right now, just learning how to be flexible, how to have positive affirmations, how to get unstuck And so having these extra journals and things like that helps, I think, them know, like, oh, let's generalize that this is whole life thing. This isn't just when I sit in health class or English class.
Mm-hmm. How old are your kids that you've done the journal with?
The ones I've done it with, they're 13, but they have Down syndrome. And so take back a couple years, there's the rule of what, 1/3 or 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also done it with an 11-year-old who was just a little bit, no disability, just a little bit more immature than maybe her peers.
Mm-hmm.
And it works great. I'd only seen the teen one, and then they came out with a younger one, and I was like, this is what we're going to do.
Did you say you've only done the teen one, or you have only done the kid one with them?
I've only done the younger one. I haven't done the teen one yet.
Gotcha.
Sorry about my dogs.
That's good. Now my daughter's trying to come out of her room.
Yeah, they're great.
I will definitely check that out. It's nice to have some tangible, like something that's ready to go.
Yeah,
rather than just my thoughts,
Yeah, or like having to do some Pinterest thing. Like, oh, I love people who can do those things, but that's not me. That's like
extra time that we don't have.
Yeah, and some of the other workbooks that I've gotten from like my professors and just that are more like school psychologists will use them, and we'll use them at home. You need to do some pre-planning and like, oh, what am I going to say with this, and how am I going to help them with this? Where this journal, so simple. You just sit down and do it. It's great.
And I'm just looking at the UVU Stronger Families project. I think I missed that.
So it's a project they started a few years ago through their family science department, and it is an 8-week course where you and hopefully your entire immediate family, even if you have split homes, like just everyone comes one night a week for 8 weeks. And you have dinner together. Dinner is provided. It's a totally free program. And then split up upon age groups. Parents go to one class, kids go to their class, and different interns and social workers and psychologists are there to teach family life skills, relationship skills, a lot of communication training in there. And then they will have, if there's enough need, I can't remember what the minimum is, but for families who have a kid with a disability, they will cater that class to those families because it's a little bit different.
Here's my special Lucy.
Hello, hi. Lucy.
Say hi.
Hi.
Good job.
Lucy. Yeah, that's really cool. We live in Provo, so that is something that
they do it all throughout the county. They had classes. Last year they had one at the Franklin Community Center for Spanish speakers. One was out in Spanish Fork. One was in Saratoga Springs. One was in Orem. One was in Lehigh, I think. And so they do it. They will do it for as many families as will sign up. And so it's totally free. Doesn't matter what your income or family looks like.
Does it matter what like type of diagnosis you have, or?
No, it's for all families, regardless if you have a child with a disability. And then you'll end up talking to the director, and when there's like a check mark or box to fill out saying that you do have a child with a disability, and they try to hold all of those families at one location so that they can have a little bit more specialized class training and class or daycare type class for them, depending on what each child needs.
What was the name of this course again?
It's UVU Stronger Families Project, and I think there's a link, but you can just Google that.
Yeah,
it's
you can click on the link from the thing you added on the slides from my email. I just was able to click on that.
Cool.
So, okay. Cool.
UVU Stronger Families Project.
Thank you. I'm gonna stop my video now.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That was really great.
Yeah, the UVU's project, it's amazing, and they have the family science department at UVU runs it, but then there's a whole other department within there that is in charge of that, and they have just amazing success with it. It's so much fun. And you get free meals for 8 weeks for a night a week. And as of right now, they're hoping to hold it this fall. It wouldn't start until end of September, and then it goes just till Thanksgiving, or just the week after Thanksgiving, because they take a break off for Thanksgiving. That's how they've done it in the past, but we're all kind of living in a new world right now. So, but as of right now, they're planning to hold it. Any other questions, thoughts, comments?
One thing, Shar, that you mentioned was you recommended for all families to sign up for DSPD as soon as possible to get the respite care.
Yes.
You mentioned how we have a staff member, we have Debbie Johansson, our transition specialist, that can help you navigate the application, and if you get put on the wait list, how to speak to your wait list coordinator to expedite that process as best as you can. I'm going to put Debbie's email address in the chat if anyone is interested. This is a free consultation from United Angels Foundation. So, and you said you recommend parents to sign up for this as soon as possible, not to wait until transition time, but you can sign up right
now.
away. So
yeah, as soon as you can. Don't wait.
Super easy. Debbie at unitedangels.org. It's a free service for all of our families. There's no charge for the consultation, and we're happy to help you with that. And there's satellite locations for respite care. It's not just the one location in Orem. I know I go to a parenting class that's over at the Lehigh location. That's a satellite. There's some portable buildings there. And I was really surprised that, oh, there's other locations for kids on the move. So it's really accessible. There's a lot of different locations in Utah County.
Yeah, I totally forgot to mention Friday's Kids, that Kids on the Move does, where if you don't have DSPD funding yet, you have to fill out this paperwork, but you qualify for at least one Friday or Saturday night a month, where it's 3.5, or is it 3.5 hours? It used to be 4. I don't think it's quite 4 hours right now. Where your child or children with a disability are with safe caregivers. They really make sure that it's like a fun, safe environment while you're gone for 3 hours, to have a date night, to clean your house, to do whatever. So check them out at Kids on the Move and Fridays. It's still called Friday's Kids, right?
I think so. We hold our teen night at Kids on the Move. When we're able to meet in person, we hold it there at the Orem location, and we see a lot of the kids come for the respite program. We've actually had some of the respite participants come to teen night to watch when we've had performances. We had BYU's ballroom dancing group there, and we all of a sudden had this huge audience because everyone came, they heard the music, and that was a lot of fun. And as Shar mentioned, they have really great qualified caregivers. I have a couple of neighbors that are volunteers with Kids on the Move, and they help with the respite, and they've gone through a training and background check and everything, and they're really wonderful people.
And that's throughout all Utah County, like Sylvia said. Like, I think there's a location in Santaquin. There's one south of Provo, and then Saratoga Springs, Lehigh, and Orem, I think, are all the locations.
Yeah, and when we're able to meet with our teen night program again, that's a 2-hour program, and we deliberately made it 2 hours so parents would have time to do a drop off, go do some. Had some parents just say, I went grocery shopping by myself, and that was so nice. And I went to the store I hadn't been to before. So we encourage you to take advantage of those programs when we're able to meet in person again as well. All right. Well, folks, it is a little after 3. Shar, thank you so much for presenting. I loved your presentation, and a lot of your points hit home for me. I think of my niece and my nephew, and one thing that you brought up that is so true. My niece grew up with an older brother with special needs, and she has always been so welcoming to other kids in her class. I remember she told me there's this new girl and no one was playing with her, but I invited her to sit with me at lunch, and just that great sense of empathy. So all these wonderful positive things too. So folks, we have recorded today's webinar. If you need the slides, if for some reason you didn't get that email, let me know. And if you know anyone that would benefit from watching this, please reach out to us and we will send them the link to the recording. Shar, thank you again so much. And
Thanks for asking.
hopefully we'll see you all online on Saturday at 9:30 for our virtual
Yes.
walk.
See you guys on Saturday. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Bye.
day. Bye.